Hey pros, Crystal here from Elite Total Body Care. Today we are making some moon skewers and some stove-top scallop potatoes. Want to learn how to do it? Watching. Listen. Alright pros, so today we're using some peeled shrimp. These are already peeled and deveined. Some Caribbean green seasoning, some butter, onions, and then for our dry herbs, we'll be using black pepper, garlic powder, a little bit of moon spice paste, yes, of course, coconut oil, and a little bit turmeric. And then, of course, we have our black pepper and salt shaker, milk, and then 4 large russet potatoes. Now from here, what we're going to do is use some skewers. I soak my skewers in some water, and then I have a tray lined with some plastic wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and put in all of my aromatics, which includes that moon spice, that coconut oil, that black pepper, turmeric, all of that. For those of you that don't know, the moon spice paste is super duper concentrated, so I definitely don't recommend overusing this. I used about 2 tablespoons for a 16-ounce bag of shrimp, which is more than enough. And that means that I will not have to add any more seasonings from this point other than salt and pepper if I'm doing like my potatoes. From there, all I did was take my shrimp and push them down onto the skewers. I did between 5 and 6 shrimp per skewer. And we're also going to be using our stovetop griddle, which I have a gas stove. If you don't have a gas stove, you can use an electric griddle, or you can use the barbecue grill. So for me, I was trying out this new griddle to see how I like it. Everything that you guys see me using in regards to utensils, bowls, all of that good stuff is available in my Amazon store. So if you click the link down in the description box to my Amazon store, that will take you to all of these utensils that you guys see me using, and of course the tools. Now do not throw away your juice, your zhuzh from your shrimp. We're going to use that later. I went ahead and peeled my potatoes and soaked them in some water so they don't turn brown. And then all I did was slice my potatoes like medallions. You can use, I think, some mandolin or something of that nature. I just used my knife and just made some nice simple cuts. You want them to kind of be like chips, but you don't want them to be too thin. Remember, we are going to be utilizing these to make some scallop potatoes in a pot. So you don't want them to be too thin where they will break apart, and you don't want them to be too thick where they won't cook evenly. Okay, so try to keep your potatoes as even as possible. Now, I am cooking for a family of 5, so this is the reason why I decided to use 4 large potatoes. But you can adjust this based on however many people you are cooking for. If you guys can tell, these potatoes I used 4 for 5 people, but they were nice in size. If you don't have them this size, then you can get the smaller ones, and of course you just adjust based on however many you need for your family. Now the potatoes, they don't take a very long time to cook. So just be mindful, like I said, size is everything with this. If they are too large, you guys, you're going to be very aggravated and your family's going to be very hungry because this will take very long. After I cut them, I do still put them back in the water to kind of help reduce a lot of that starch. And of course, to keep them from turning brown. Super important. If you don't plan on using them right away, definitely put them in that bowl of water and put them in your refrigerator. In my case, I am going to use them right away, but they do start to, I guess you can say, oxidize on the exterior, and that's what changes the color, but that might be the wrong term. Now, I didn't mention before, but we are going to use some garlic, so I just rough chopped some garlic cloves that I had. I love garlic. You can use as little or as much garlic as you want. The garlic is not necessarily required, but it is definitely a plus when you are making your food. It adds that flavor. Now for my onions, I like to add onions to my scallop potatoes. You can omit the onions if you don't like the onions, but I do. So I do put a little bit of onion in the scallop potato. That helps to add that flavor. And then what I did was I preheated my Dutch pot, which you guys can find in my Amazon store, and I melted some butter because I'm going to start layering my potatoes in the pan now. So at the bottom of the pan, I put in some of that chopped garlic and some of those onions. And then I just started to layer my potato chips or scallop potatoes, whatever you want to call them. I started to layer them in my pot. And you want to make sure that you keep them nice and even, but spread apart. So you don't want them like one sticking on top of each other. And this is also where you're going to be using your milk. Okay, so at the end, I put a little bit more of my onions, and then whatever garlic I had left, I actually put that in there as well. Now we're gonna be mixing this, you guys. So you don't have to worry too much right now. Okay, it doesn't have to be super pretty. And then I did use about 2.5 tablespoons of butter. This is Kerrygold butter. You can use whatever butter or margarine you want. It's your choice. And I just kind of split it up into chunks and put it in the pan. Here is where we're also going to be using our salt and pepper. So I'm using my electric pepper grinder. I love this thing, okay? Love, love, love. And then I also like to use pink Himalayan salt in a coarse round. So it is going to be grinded as well with my salt shaker. And that is all we need in regards to seasoning for our potatoes. Now, scallop potatoes traditionally have cheese. Ours did not have any cheese on them, but I still call them scallop potatoes. And then I'm pouring, I started out with a cup of milk to see how much milk I really needed. So I like to start out with a cup. After that, I went in with a second cup because I wanted to make sure that I had enough liquid to start the cooking process. Now, before I actually put this on the stove, I am going to use my spoon and just mix everything up so I can get that salt and pepper, all those seasonings entwined together, and get that butter mixed in that we already had preheated. And then you just go back and just kind of fix your potatoes to make sure that they're nice and flat and they all have a good way of cooking. Now, after we did that, I'm just making a little bit of glaze for my shrimp. Remember before I said don't throw away your zhuzh from your shrimp. So we're just gonna add about 2 tablespoons of honey to this. The honey is just going to serve as a quick glaze along with the remaining seasonings that we had from the shrimp. Now, of course, this is a raw shrimp seasoning, so this does require that you actually still cook this at least for a few minutes on your griddle or on your stove. However, when you're brushing it onto your shrimp, don't brush it on your shrimp and just take it right off, which you'll see in just a moment what I'm talking about. But it's super important that remember this is a raw juice that we're using from raw shrimp, okay? So it's not ready to eat. I don't recommend tasting it from here. It's a little bit dangerous, but you'll see what I mean in just a moment. And then, of course, you do want to make sure that you definitely stir it well. We are adding honey to this, so you want to make sure that everything is nice and mixed together. Now, my griddle is already nice and warm on my stove. The griddle is also available in my Amazon store. And I had enough space on this griddle that I could do all of my shrimp all at once. Now, this is also the reason why I put the coconut oil on the shrimp as well, because I don't want them to stick or burn. So the coconut oil is to coat that shrimp just like you would use olive oil in a pan. I just use the coconut oil on the shrimp rather than rubbing it or brushing it onto the actual griddle, okay? This griddle is actually very convenient. It's very easy to clean compared to my stovetop grill. I would definitely use this more than once rather than using my stovetop grill because my countertop grill. Countertop grill has a lot of cleaning to me, but this was very, very simple. So the shrimp on one side, right now the grill is on about medium high. And then I also started brushing them with that glaze from the moment I put it on the stove, okay? So shrimp dries out really, really easily. It can easily be overcooked. We're making skewers. I like my meat dead, so we're definitely gonna make sure that the shrimp is cooked. And I like to add this glaze to it because remember, honey is an humectant. Even in food, it draws in the moisture, it locks it in. So this is gonna keep that shrimp from really drying out per se. And also, it's gonna give that shrimp a lot of flavor. Now, because I'm using the stovetop griddle, I did use a piece of foil paper to be a heat conductor, just to kind of keep that shrimp nice and moist. Now, our potatoes, the milk has come to a boil. If you don't like milk, you guys, you can use water. I prefer milk or cream. Cream can be a little too thick, hence the reason why I use the milk. Now, at this point, my potatoes have just started cooking, so I'm able to utilize my spoon to move them around. Once my potatoes start to get tender, I will not be using a spoon. I will just be using the pot handles, as you see me here, shaking the pot around to make sure that my potatoes do not stick to the bottom of the pan, because with that milk, they do want to stick. Okay, so that is how you're able to stir your pan without a spoon and then run the risk of breaking up your potatoes, or run the risk of it turning into mashed potatoes because either you put too much liquid or you were just a little too rough. Now, one side of my shrimp is done. If you guys know, shrimp cooks really, really quickly, you guys. So on the griddle, this took me no more than 5-10 minutes, okay? And the only reason why I say 5-10 minutes is because at one point I did kind of turn my heat down so that they would not cook so fast, okay? But the shrimp does not take much time. Really, the longest portion of this meal is the potatoes. The shrimp, even the preparation takes less time than the potatoes, okay? So once I flipped them over, I went back and I applied the remainder of my zhuzh, which is my honey glaze that I made, utilizing that moon spice and that coconut oil, the turmeric, the black pepper, the powdered ginger or ground ginger. That is all that's in that sauce. So really, I'm just recycling the juices from the shrimp to keep that shrimp nice and moist and give that shrimp even more flavor. We are building flavors in our food, okay? So yes, because I did put that sauce on the cook side, I am gonna flip them one more time just to ensure that that sauce is cooked, okay? Because it is raw sauce from raw shrimp. And I just flip it over once more and let the shrimp rest on the griddle for no more than a minute or two. And then they're all done. And the only reason why I flip them over is because you do want to make sure that you're not serving shrimp with raw sauce on it. Outside of that, you guys, that was really it for the shrimp. It didn't take much. It was a very simple dish. I did decide to also make just a small bowl of spinach to add a little bit of freshness to my dish. What you see me doing here is just kind of stacking the shrimp together. This is like an attempt to keep them as moist as possible. And then, of course, turn that stove off. But the griddle is still super hot, you guys. So keep that in mind when you're ready. Now, the finished dish, so you guys can see my scallop potatoes, my shrimp, and a little bit of fresh spinach. Listen, this dish was so good, you guys. Please comment down below if you try this out. And don't forget to go and check out our moon spice at EliteTotalBodyCare.com. Thanks for watching.